and good evening and welcome to the right venue. I'm Anton Savage and this is The Apprentice, You're Fired. Well, tonight, with the help of unseen footage and razor-sharp analysis, we'll be assessing the performance of all of the apprentices and we'll be getting to the bottom of Camelgate. Why, oh why, Lucozade Sportlight didn't want a big, huge, hairy camel as the representative of their new sports drink, frankly, it's beyond me. But before some of the candidates could get their heads around the task that they were facing, some of them decided that they needed, well, a quick nap.
I'm not going to sleep, I'm just closing my eyes thinking that's the way I think.
Niamh, that's not called thinking, that's called having a sly snooze. By that logic, I would be getting 8 hours of solid thinking every night. Before they nod off, I want to introduce you to our celebrity panel. We have with us a woman who knows everything about how to make a good impression and knows pretty much everything about modelling as well, Celia Holman-Lee. And all of the way from the last series of the UK Apprentice, Lorraine Tighe. And finally, one of the people responsible for tonight's task from GlaxoSmithKline, Mairead Golden. Mairead, I assume you haven't slept a wink with disappointment over giving up that camel.
Well, not a wink, Anton, no.
Yeah, well, in case you missed our very own Sleeping Beauty on the show tonight, here's a recap of her departure.
Niamh, you're working way below your par. You're certainly not living up to what your CV said. And having said all that, I end up by saying, you are fired.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, will you please welcome Niamh Humphreys. You look gorgeous.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My God, you have some fans in tonight,
I'm telling you, I
Niamh.
brought the crowd from Limerick with me today and a few from Cavan as well.
Give us a whoop, the crowd from Limerick. Oh, that's not a bad answer. Niamh, one of the things that you said in the clips was that you had left your 5-year-old behind. How long were you away?
I was away for, I think, a total of just over 3 weeks.
And was that very tough? It's a boy, isn't it?
It is a boy, yeah, Dara.
Does it make it more disappointing for you? Because for someone who is free and easy and just goes in and says, sure, I'll give it a try, you had to give up a lot to do this.
Yes, I did have to give up a lot. I mean, everybody had to give up a lot, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you've kids, whether you've just come out of college. Everybody has loved ones that they have to leave behind. Everybody has, you know, financial burdens that they need to leave behind. But I suppose, you know, from my point of view, I did have to leave, you know, a child behind, partner behind.
Watching the show back, did you suffer more because you'd already been in front of Bill in the boardroom once?
I suppose, yeah, because from what I understand and what I know, it had been decided probably pretty much as the task started who was going to go into the boardroom.
Explain that.
Well, they had, you know, obviously Caroline and her buddies had, you know, had discussed it, and the other team were able to tell me that, who she was going to bring into the boardroom, because obviously I'd be the most vulnerable.
Well, Celia, do you think that's accurate, or is that a bit of paranoia?
Not necessarily, but if you knew and you felt that, I think you'd be still in The Apprentice today if you'd stood up and said, this is how I feel. I'm feeling that there's a little bit of buddyship going on. I would have done that, and Bill would have respected that more if you'd come out fighting.
Yeah, you're looking at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, when that happened, I suppose it's naivety as well. You just think, you know, and I had said that, which wasn't shown maybe on the actual series, but, you know, when I was being interviewed, I said, I'm just hoping that she takes her, you know, she leaves her professional hat on and leaves her personal life, you know, at home, because we'd always said that's what we would do.
So I want to bring in our apprentice expert. You've been in that situation.
Hi, how are you?
If you were knowing, as Niamh said she did, that you were likely to end up in the boardroom if you lost, how do you tactically handle that? Is there anything that Niamh could have done to protect herself, or do you think she's taken it too much towards the paranoia end of the spectrum?
Yeah, well, I mean, in my experience, Niamh, I was in the boardroom a lot, actually, in the last series, and I felt that, and I did it hopefully throughout the whole series, that I was fairly honest if I had made a mistake. I actually did say, you know, straight away to Sir Alan at the time, you know, I have made a mistake. he kind of respected me for that, and I didn't kind of blame personal issues. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from you. I think you could have gone further in the competition.
I completely agree with Bill for firing me. It was my second time in the boardroom, you know what I mean, in that number of weeks.
But there again,
so
I mean,
I felt
a lot of your
kind
ideas got spiked. I mean, right, let me run them past you. We had, if I get these wrong, correct me, Niamh, but we had, Niamh's followed in on the camel. But she had an idea which was Lucozade Sportlight as washing powder. And there was one that seemed to be Lucozade Sportlight in a sort of a mutating trees into human arm.
Well, now, in my defence, okay? In my defence...
Well, let's get a reaction from the boss. Right, if they had been pitched to you, particularly the human arm root one, it's catchy.
Well, I'm struggling to see how they would translate for Lucozade Sportlight, but, you know, you never know what a bit of Photoshop can do, so, you know.
Well, I suppose from my point of view, we had been told, put out any mad ideas that come to your head, right there. And everybody did, you know what I mean? I mean, Ciara wanted a bedroom scene, you know what I mean? And other people wanted other things.
That's true, when you compare the roots and arms versus the woman in lingerie and the stamina. Well, let's actually have a look back through then and see if we can figure out where it all went wrong for Niamh.
So, Caroline, why is Niamh back here?
A few of the ideas that she came up with, I just didn't know where they were coming from.
They're sitting on the washing machine and they're actually using this as their washing powder. I mean, you could have the roots, you could have an arm coming out of a hole, like a, you know, and make it look like a man's arm, and one could, you know, I don't know.
So where did the camel decision come from?
We put a camel in the queue with the people.
I love it. I love it.
But why would a camel be in a gym?
It doesn't matter. It's just the nearest water cooler that he could find.
Do you actually use camels in your circus?
The idea of running around looking for a camel in Dublin has been terminated, I'm afraid. Camel.
Yeah,
perfect.
They say a picture should speak 1,000 words. Their picture makes no sense.
I'm going to allow our billboard to do all the talking. I do believe it speaks for itself.
Why did you present the camel concept and not your original idea?
I never gamble in business and I prefer to have a plan B all the time.
Was it because you thought this one wasn't going to work?
The photo shoot probably didn't work out quite right. Images we've already
Why did you
used.
tell us that there was a problem with the background then, Kieran, and I would have done whatever you told me to do?
I think it was the look involved. I mean, you had the whole day to do it. In the whole day, I did 2 billboards and a brochure. I feel like I'm giving everyone else a piggyback.
The guys have their own plan now as well, I'm sorry, like, do you know what I mean? They do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She's not going to bring them into the boardroom. She hasn't the guts to do it.
Who are you going to bring back into the boardroom with you?
Ciara and Niamh.
Okay.
I'm disappointed, but not surprised that I'm here in the boardroom today.
You're not surprised?
I'm not surprised, no.
Niamh, I am really sorry. Look, you went with the boys. I didn't go with the boys, Niamh. I went on first. Niamh, you have to be mature enough.
I'm not, I'm fine. Just...
I went on the performance of the task.
Of course I'm upset. It's a bit early in the competition, I think, for me to go home. I was definitely shafted. To go out for that reason, based on what I've given up and what I have achieved so far, is hard.
Is that just the couple of minutes afterwards that you're that upset, or is it actually that upset? Did that linger?
That was, I mean, obviously that was a part of a longer interview, and I was holding it together and saying my piece, and, you know, really, the next thing they said, and you left your son at home, and the floodgates opened up, and that was it, and then it was a long day as well. It was a long day in the boardroom, so it was, you know.
But you're being very decent about what happened and saying that you felt in a way that it was sort of it was the time for it to happen. But at the end of that clip, when you walk out and Caroline comes towards you and does that this was on merit, you're buying none of it.
No.
What's she like?
To be fair, okay, I mean, when I first
No, don't be fair. It'll be much more fun if you're not.
I'll be fun, don't worry. I'll get there. I mean, Caroline was probably one of the first girls that I had met, you know, in this whole process, and I thought she was lovely. I really did. I thought she was a real little sweetheart, and she was good fun, and, you know, I had absolutely no problems with her. And I suppose as we got into the house and, you know, we were there a couple of days and things like that, you know, she was more into, I suppose, just male attention, and that's fine.
How do you mean she was more into male attention?
Well, she just seemed to bond better with the guys. But yeah, it was a bit, you know, because I remember having a conversation with Ciara. We had went upstairs at one stage because she was, I don't know which one that was, but I know herself and Will were giving each other a hand massage, and they were talking, and we were all in the room. And we went upstairs, and Ciara said, I have a young daughter. Is this what goes on these days? Are we really behind? You know, are we the next generation or something? Because I would hate to think that my daughter would be, you know, doing that close to guys.
And it's early days. I mean, it's only, what, 3 weeks in the house, and massages that start that way, well, you know, they can progress.
But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, she's young, she's single, you know what I mean? She's in a completely different different environment than what I would be in and stage of life. So, you know, I didn't mind. They can do what they like, you know what I mean? But just once they didn't bring it into the boardroom.
Well, each week we are joined by our recruitment expert, Mairead Fleming from Brightwater Recruitment. Mairead, before we get into the boardroom shenanigans, if you had to choose camel or walking on water, which way would you go?
Oh, definitely walking on water. Very, very clear. It was a very clear picture. It was easy to follow and you could understand it. I'm still struggling to understand the camel message. And I know from Mairead's point of view, they really need their brand to be portrayed very clearly and simply. And the walking on water did that. It was very, very pleasing on the eye.
Was there anything that Niamh could have done once she got into the boardroom to rescue herself?
You know something, Niamh, I really think your cards were marked from episode 1, unfortunately. And Bill was watching you very, very closely. You really would have had to excel throughout that whole episode, and you didn't, unfortunately. So I think, no, it was a lost cause at that point.
Thanks, Mairead. Well, there's one bit on what Mairead said that I just want to pick up on. When Bill came to you, he asked one question, which was, if you could have brought somebody else in, how come you didn't have an answer to say, well, I would have had this person in and cut their throat instead?
Because, I know I was watching it and it was probably a downfall of mine, but the reason is because the person I thought may go was actually in the boardroom, which was Ciara. So that's kind of, you know, I was kind of thinking, well, the person is actually kind of here, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's probably where I kind of got a little bit confused there. But
I have to say that when we got into the whole discussion and thinking around, because the production crew had heard you say some of the things about Caroline, we did think maybe this was paranoia and maybe you were taking it a bit far, until we started preparing for tonight's episode. And we got a whole load of unseen footage and went through tons and tons of stuff. And we found some fairly interesting things. Have a look at this, guys, because some of this is an eye-opener.
I think Caroline's a great girl. If anything, I'm just going to work that bit harder, you know, to really help her out here. And Jamie's the exact same. The three of us are quite cliquey, you know, in the house.
I think Caroline isn't a natural-born leader.
I'd have to disagree 100% with Tara. I thought Caroline was brilliant, you know.
I have to agree with the two on my left, Bill. She made the right decision. She chose the right people for the right jobs.
If anyone but Caroline comes home, it's the biggest injustice since the O.J. Simpson trial.
Well, we didn't see any of the massages that you mentioned, but keeping the relationships to one side, on the business front, Mairead, was Caroline that impressive in that presentation?
I think she was strong, she was very articulate, and she was very concise and clear. So she, you know, she did do a very good presentation. I think where she let herself down on the task was, as project manager, you know, she probably shouldn't have allowed her team to split into two such distinct groups.
Lorraine, would you be rating her as a contender?
I think so. I quite like her, actually. I think she held the group together very well. She was fairly diplomatic. Her presentation was excellent, actually, and it was a difficult presentation.
Well, on the subject of holding the group together and staying with relationships, Panos, in episode 1, Panos said to us that he didn't want to be defined as a gay man in business. It looks sort of like he's forgotten the gay bit out of gay man.
I like the string.
Yeah, I do.
The puddles will go.
It's me.
Okay, so actually they kind of look like they're pushing the line.
My favourite bit of that is, first of all, that when Panos gets caught, he looks behind him, like it might have been somebody else's hand that was on it. And secondly, it takes Michelle a good 5, 6, 7 seconds to work out that there is a hand on her ass. Like, surely that's a quicker response time you would expect.
She's so focused, Michelle. She is just not looking anywhere apart from on the task. She's not even, she can't even feel anything around her. She's
really? And she is that driven, is she?
I mean, obviously, because I was only there 3 weeks, but yeah, from what I know of Michelle, and you can see it in that. It was purely just concentrating on the task.
I think there's something about her, and she's a little bit under the radar as well.
Well, Panos was in that clip too. What about Panos? Do you rate him?
I think he's very funny. Very sweet.
Funny doesn't tend to make you win The Apprentice.
No. I think, you know, I think he'll go far in it because the people there will like him, and that's very important too. But I don't think he will end up working for Bill.
Yeah, because he seems, Niamh, when you see him on the TV, he seems like a very gentle, soft fella, is he?
He is. Yeah. Panas, I think somebody like Panas, nobody could dislike.
But does he have, is there enough steel in him to actually win it, or is he going to get swept away by some of the other people?
He'll do well. You know, he's